On today's episode of Infinity Sports, we're actually going to be talking about Carson Wentz and why he's not going to get number 11. We're going to be talking about the NBA All-Star picks and whether or not fans should be picking them. We're going to be talking about a hot take about Liverpool, if there's such a thing as a hot take about soccer. Nick will explain. And we're going to start off the show. Obviously, you're tuning in because we're going to be talking about LeBron James, and Nick has a take on that coming right up after this little 8-second intro. Thank you for joining Infinity Sports. I'm Wayne G. I'm joined by Sully. What's up?
Hey, how we doing, bro?
And Nick P. What's going on?
What's up? What's up?
Not much. Obviously, if people are tuning in right now, they are tuning in because they see the thumbnail and they want to hear your take on LeBron James that actually kicked Carson Wentz off the lead of the show. So what is your take on LeBron James? Because I can't wait for people to hear this and then for me and Sully to kind of tackle you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hype out there about LeBron being MVP this year, so on and so forth. This would be, if he does win MVP, this would be his 5th MVP, which would put him neck and neck with Michael Jordan, right? Because Jordan won 5, should have won 6, but he won 5. My whole thing with LeBron is this was a test, right? AD going down over these last 5 games was a big test to his MVP candidacy. And now it's like they just lost to the Wizards. They've lost 4 of 5. They're dropping in the standings. You know, LeBron's supposed to be the guy, but it looks like to me, with their best player out, he's not the guy.
All right. Sully?
I don't know, because I actually kind of agree with Nick to a point here. But the point is, yeah, LeBron's not the guy. He's 37 years old. Like
36, but that's 36. Everyone's giving him credit for that. Right. Everyone's giving him credit.
Well, they should. What are you? I'm 34. I ache to get out of bed, bro. Like, right. Like there's no way. Now, granted, I understand LeBron's a different beast. He's a whole nother athlete, but nonetheless, he's 36. I don't think. Like, all right, so my viewpoint on LeBron in this age in his career is he's not the man, and I don't think he's trying to be the man. I don't think it's deferring in any way, but I mean, at this point, he doesn't need to be the man. And let's be real, that Laker team, like outside of AD and LeBron, it's got some decent talent in Montrezl Harrell and things like that, but it's not a great team. It's not like it's loaded with all-star talent up and down the court. At the same time, obviously, we expect the utmost from LeBron. We expect the peak. We expect everything because he's put that expectation on himself. So I do think that he should be performing better at this time. But again, I mean, if you're talking just in respect to MVP this year, yes, I don't think he should win MVP this year. But outside, like, if you're talking like his greatness overall, I mean, I don't think this has anything to do with his overall greatness.
And my take on it was this, is that over this 5-game stretch, LeBron James has increased his minutes per game played. He's increased his points per game scored. He's increased his rebounds per game. He's increased his assists per game. So basically, since AD's been gone, he has completely stepped up. And like to Sully's point, they don't have AD, so he doesn't have those other superstars to help him win games. Are we really going to hold the record against him? Especially when I think it's funny that you mentioned AD is the best player. The Lakers are 67-26 over the last 2 years. It's a 72% winning percentage. When Anthony Davis is out, they have a 63% winning percentage. When LeBron James is out, they have a 50% winning percentage. So why, if Anthony Davis is the best player on the team, does it hurt the team less when he's out than when LeBron's out?
Well, you're looking at a smaller sample size, too, because AD's missed more games than LeBron's missed considerably, which is just going to be the situation. And you rattled off LeBron's stats since AD's been out, but let's look at the bigger picture here. LeBron had 7 turnovers against the Wizards last night. 7 turnovers. They lost that game by 3 points. LeBron is the all-time leader in turnovers, by the way. He has 500 more than Kobe Bryant and more than double Michael Jordan. So, I mean, like, to me, and he's the primary ball handler, and I don't think that you can look at this Lakers roster. That's the other thing, too, right? Like, Harrell is like, what he went 6th man last year? He was 6th man of the year last year. Harrell's a beast, right?
So he's not even a starter.
Schroeder came off 6th man of the year, though, and he's probably going to be a 6th man again. He's probably going to be 6th man again, though. And the reality of the situation is Schroeder comes off – I mean, he's coming off a career year as far as three-point shooting, You got a guy like Kuzma who's full of potential. He's actually turned into a double-double machine. I don't know where he's brought that into his game, but all of a sudden he gets double-doubles all the time. And then you have, young talent too. Horton Tucker's a decent young player, right? The Lakers aren't void of talent here. Kobe Bryant was winning championships with rosters like this minus AD. And that's my whole point with LeBron. You're right. Without another superstar, he's not the same. That's the entire point. That's why he's not a GOAT. It's why he's not an MVP. It's why I always harp on these things, because without another superstar, he's just a guy that puts up good numbers.
I'd argue Pau Gasol. We've had this argument before, but I'll die on this Pau Gasol hill.
Go ahead. You can. Pau Gasol never averaged 20. Pau Gasol never averaged 20 in the playoffs.
He did, just not in the playoffs. He averaged 18 and 11 in the playoffs. Let's be real. So
that's not 27. It's not 27 like AD. It's not 25 or 26 like Kyrie.
He also
didn't
have. If we're gonna, I'm just saying, if we're going through and comparing rosters, I think Kobe Bryant didn't win a championship void of talent on his roster.
I wouldn't say void of talent. I would just say he won it with less talent.
I get less talent than yes, because I think AD is an all-time great. So I will say that. But again, I don't think this takes anything away from LeBron's greatness. I think every superstar needed another superstar. Michael needed Scotty. Shaq needed Kobe. Kobe needed Shaq, however you want to put it. I think everybody kind of needs another player. We've had this argument ad nauseum. It's pretty tough to win with just one person on the floor. And like Dwayne said, he's stepped up in every way possible. What more could you want from the guy? He can't score every basket. He can't.
Well, but that's not the thing, too. He could turn the ball over less. Because
I agree. His turnovers is something that a lot of people don't speak on. And to be fair, it needs to be spoken. But just to play devil's advocate to your point, he handles the ball infinitely more than Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant did. So
I don't know about that. I don't know if he handles the ball more than Kobe did. Maybe more than Jordan at times, but I don't know that he handled it more than Kobe. Especially over maybe given the volume, like playing a longer period of time type thing, you could say that. But at the end of the day, he's got a sloppier handle than Kobe or Michael Jordan did, right? He's a bigger dude, so he uses his power, but he doesn't have a better handle.
He's twice the passer any of them could have ever been on their best day, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. You talk about handle, and we're not talking about handle. We're talking about turnovers, and you said that Kobe doesn't handle the ball, or that LeBron doesn't handle the ball more than Kobe. Kobe was not the facilitator for the team. I'd be curious to see how many or what percentage of Lakers baskets are off of LeBron James passes and what percentage are off of Kobe's passes.
Well, that's because LeBron shied away from big shots. He always shies away from big shots.
Big shots in the second quarter or the first quarter?
Yeah, he's the point guard. He had 11. He averaged 11 assists last year. The guy's a point guard.
Right. No, I get it. I absolutely get it. It's easy to defer when you don't. It's easy to defer to your teammates when you don't have that killer instinct. Kobe and Jordan had it, so they didn't. They just went out and won games. So, the reality of the situation is this too. The whole thing with LeBron, he's gonna probably win MVP by default, right? Because he's LeBron. That's what the race has turned into. And who's second right now as far as Vegas bets? I think it's Joel Embiid. Embiid's not gonna win the MVP. That's a joke. So it's just gonna by default be LeBron James unless he gets hurt or something catastrophic happens and AD misses more time and the Lakers just continue their plummet. It's going to take a lot for LeBron not to win because, in my opinion, the MVP, especially over the last 10, 15 years, has just been a popularity contest anyway.
I guess I'm curious to know kind of where the argument started is you're saying, again, this 5-game stretch knocks LeBron out of the MVP race. Are you saying he wasn't in it to begin with, or he was, and this knocked him out? And to my point is, how did it knock him out?
He doesn't deserve it. I'm saying he doesn't deserve it, and this proof is in the pudding in this 5-game stretch, right? He'll win it because it's a popularity contest unless something catastrophic happens, but he doesn't deserve it. His team can't win. His team cannot win without AD. They weren't going to win the finals without. But they weren't going to win the finals without AD. And AD literally had better stats in every single category except for assists in the NBA Finals last year. Every single category: 3-point percentage, field goal percentage, free throw percentage, rebounds. You name it. AD was the better player in the finals.
Yeah,
was he not?
He's a phenomenal player. But what I'm saying is
best player on the team.
I don't know. I mean, I
don't have any argument. One's 28 and one's 36.
So how could you be MVP if you're not the best player on your team? That's my thing. But LeBron's going to win it somehow.
Well, I
don't know. We'll see. It's not even mid-season yet.
I just see it coming. I know how the league works.
James Harden's balling right now with no KD, and that Nets team is still rolling.
But people don't like him.
No, I understand, but crazier things could happen. If this Nets team continues to roll the way they're doing and Harden is playing the way he does and things like that, God only knows. You know what I mean? You can't ignore that. I get people don't like him, but I think that's got potential to be a shitstorm over there in New Jersey or Brooklyn.
And the other thing that you had said that kind of took me by surprise, or that I disagreed with, and that's why I wanted to have it as my second point, since we're leading the show with basketball today, folks, kind of a surprise, is that you had mentioned across the nation we have the arch rival of the Lakers, which is the Boston Celtics, and you said that you thought Brad Stevens should be fired for how they're playing.
It's not that I thought Brad Stevens should be. It's not that I think Brad Stevens should be fired, but I think that he's the weakest link on the Celtics.
What's that? Sully?
We are the weakest link. Goodbye. That's all. It just
yeah. Good one. For those who weren't around in the early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's not that. First of all, I know it's like the LeBron thing, right? He's probably going to win MVP by default because he's LeBron, and there's not a realistic candidate going up against him right now. I think the same thing with Brad Stevens. He's going to get a longer leash because it's a COVID year. They're not playing in front of fans or anything. But I just watched this game recently where they blew that lead to New Orleans. 24-point lead. They blew to New Orleans. And part of the blame is definitely on Brad Stevens. I think the majority of the blame should be on Brad Stevens. But I also hold Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum completely culpable for the situation the Celtics are in, because they should be coaching Brad Stevens. They should be telling – there's no reason Tatum should be taken out with 4 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter in what now has become a tight game. You take him out with 4 minutes, you bring him back on – or you take him out of the 6 minute mark, you bring him back on in the 4 minute mark. Those decisions don't make any sense. Jaylen Brown, he's got him sitting on the sidelines. Meanwhile, New Orleans is chipping away from a 21-point lead all the way down to a 6-point lead. It's at what point does Jaylen Brown not step in and say, Coach, I'm going back out there. You're going to have to stop me from going back out there. And Stevens is making these decisions, and the players are just abiding by it. It's ridiculous. It's why the Celtics, despite the talent that they have, are a 500 basketball team right now.
See, I think that Brad Stevens is the strongest link on the team. I think that his coaching is what has them with 15 wins instead of 5 wins. I think that they are an extremely talented team.
Crazy.
But
That's
you
crazy.
talk about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum should be coaching the team. Those guys joined the team. They were teenagers, and Brad Stevens made them what they are right now. And so now the students become the teacher?
I don't think that you could say that Brad Stevens has made anybody like they are. I mean, Gordon Hayward was like his child, for God's sake, in Boston, and he couldn't even stand playing for him and went over to Charlotte. So let's call it what it is. I mean, he played for Stevens in college. I mean, come on. And Kyrie Irving, again, can you imagine Kyrie on this Boston? But he probably couldn't stand it. He probably couldn't stand playing for a guy like Brad Stevens. And the reality of the situation is, if you watch Celtics games, you are watching 1980s basketball all over again. This team will stop on a dime on a fast break to set up a half-court offense. It's disgusting to watch. It's literally an embarrassment to Celtics fans. I feel bad. I'm not a Celtics fan. I have friends who are close to me that are diehard Celtics fans. I feel bad for them that they have to watch that brand of basketball because they have so much talent, and the coach is just using it. I mean, not even using it. His subs are bad. His system is bad. He's got one of the most talented rosters all around in the league. What's he doing?
I mean, I don't know. I think we talked about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and which one we would keep and trade and things like that in an earlier episode. And I mentioned I don't think either player really has a killer instinct, and I think that's the case. And I think that's why they don't step out and say, hey, look, I'm going to come in and coach, you need to do this. I don't think either player is that player. I think they're a far more passive kind of player. And that's not to say that they can't light up the scoreboard, obviously, or have great talent, but I don't think either one is a step on your throat kind of guy. And I think that's why, and you're not getting that from them. And Brad Stevens is the kind of guy that, forces that out of anybody. You know what I mean? I don't think Brad Stevens is a tremendous, pump them up motivator kind of guy. So I don't know. I think it's just kind of the perfect blend of passiveness between everyone that you're not seeing anybody reach their full potential because nobody is pulling it out of them. Nobody is literally pulling. You have to put yourself in stressful and pressured situations to get the best out of yourself sometimes. And I don't think Brad Stevens is asking that out of either one of these guys, and neither of these guys is volunteering for that.
Right, and I think that's where the Celtics are at, is they need somebody to do that. The appeasement process in Boston is not working out right now, and they need in my opinion, one of those guys who is a former player to come on and tell these young guys, look, this is your time. Now you step it up. This is where you define your career and your path for the rest of that career. And Brad Stevens, to your point, is not that guy. Brad Stevens is a great NCAA coach, and it's exactly where he belongs.
See, I
think he belongs in the NBA. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I think he's the second best coach in the NBA, maybe third if you want to put Spoelstra at 2. Obviously, Popovich is number 1. But I have Brad Stevens top 3 in the NBA as far as a head coach goes. I would gladly have him coach any team in the league other than maybe the Spurs or the
Yeah, you would as a Lakers fan, considering he coaches your rivals and they're in a complete disarray. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for liking Brad Stevens.
I would trade Frank Vogel for Brad Stevens in a heartbeat. I'd even throw in some
I think Brad Stevens fits with the Lakers because you've got guys like AD and LeBron who will tell him how to coach and say, hey, look, you give us some X's and O's and use your brain and your knowledge, and then we'll on-floor general and things like that. Exactly. Maybe that doesn't mesh with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum because, like you said, they came in as young men, with this guy. And so they've never experienced somebody who's a hard-nosed kind of motivator coach that literally brings it out of you. So maybe, I don't know. I agree. I think Brad Stevens is a tremendous coach. I think he has every ability to win a championship in this league. Just maybe with these 2 stars in this system, in this Boston scheme, it just isn't fitting right now. I mean, it's tough to argue. This team, I don't think any of us think they should be a 500 team. They should be they should be winning more ball games, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think that hurt too. That having Marcus Smart miss half the games and having Kemba miss half the games doesn't help them out either.
No, I don't think it's not justification for blowing a 24-point lead to a terrible New Orleans Pelicans team.
But I feel like Phil Jackson's blown 24-point leads. I mean, it happens to everyone.
But not to the Pelicans. And part of it was coaching, though. The subs, like I said, Jaylen Brown on the bench while the lead dwindles away. You had Tristan Thompson completely shut down Zion Williamson in the first half of that game. Williamson was 6 points. 6 points in the first half. I think he ended with 32 because all of a sudden Stevens decided, well, we're going to bring in Robert Williams, the rookie, to stick on Zion Williamson, and look at what happened. Zion just tooled on him all game. It's like, why move away from what was working? You're overthinking. Maybe you can be a successful coach. It won't be in Boston.
Well, the NBA All-Star Game takes place on March 7th in Atlanta, and the starting rosters have been announced. The East is going to be Bradley Beal, Giannis, KD, Embiid, and Kyrie, which makes no sense to me. And then the West is going to be Curry, Kawhi, LeBron, Jokic, and Luka. I'm curious to get your guys. Again, Kyrie just made no sense to me. Zach LaVine's having an amazing year. I think that he should be an all-star. I think Trae Young, the game's in Atlanta. Trae Young's not at the starting point guard in this game. So it just doesn't make sense to me to have Kyrie Irving there. But I'm curious what you guys think of those 2 rosters.
I don't know. All these all-star games now I'm not a huge fan of because it's just like fan voting, and it just gets blasted and it's not actually who really deserves to go anymore. It like Nick mentioned, the MVP is a popularity contest, and I understand the All-Star Game is a fan thing, and it should be a popularity contest to an extent. But I don't know, I can't. I'm not a fan of it anymore. I like the 3-point contest more.
I like the fan voting. I hate that. I also like Kyrie Irving first of all, to your point, Wayne, I like Kyrie Irving much better as an all-star game starter than Trae Young, or who else did you say?
Zach LaVine.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'll take Kyrie Irving over those 2 guys all day. The Kawhi Leonard thing, that bothers me because I feel like a guy like Ja Morant deserves to start an All-Star game this year. I mean, he's got that Memphis team literally in the playoff hunt, and it's only him. Triple J's been out all year. Why is Ja Morant? Because he plays in Memphis, so he doesn't get the popularity, the exposure that some of these other guys would get. That's the thing. That's the one knock I would say for like the fans voting and the All-Star. But other than that, I like the fan voting aspect. I like the All-Star lineups the way that they are. It's obviously indicative of who the fans want to see. And quite frankly, that's what All-Star Weekend's all about. So,
yeah, I like the way the NFL does it done now and the way the NBA did. Why not do a draft again? Like vote everyone, not necessarily starters, and then you do a draft. Like that'd be sick. I'd be more interested in that.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. I think that one of the things that you run into with the fan voting in that situation too, especially since the fans are voting for all 15 players or whatever it is per side, is you get a guy like Taco Fall gets elected to the All-Star game because he's a fan favorite. But to your point, Sully, I like that. If that's who the fans want to see, I don't care. I mean,
right.
People might say, at what point do you draw a line? Because you look at a couple years ago in Major League Baseball, the Kansas City Royals fans went bananas and elected Kansas City Royals starters for every position or whatever it was. And the Major League Baseball stepped in and said, no, we're not going to do that. So I was like, why not? I mean, if their fans are that gung-ho, especially Kansas City, I mean, throw them a bone. It's Kansas City.
Well, baseball's got their own issues. We've talked about that on.
Yeah, pretty sure. I can't remember who. I think Mike Schmidt got voted to an All-Star game after he'd retired. Somebody did in baseball. I can't remember exactly who it was. But I mean, that's the issue with fan voting is things like that happen. But again, maybe if that's what the fans want, then give it to them. I don't know. Like I said, I like the side show stuff now more. So,
can I give you guys a trivia question?
Oh, shoot.
Sure.
There's only one player in NBA history so far that has started an All-Star game without starting for his team. Who is that player?
Started an All-Star game without starting for his team, so it's got to be a multiple six-time, sixth man of the year type player. So I'm guessing it's either going to be Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford.
You have to go with one. You each have to throw me a guess. What is it?
I'm taking Crawford.
Who do you got, Sully?
I'll go Lou Williams then.
Kobe Bryant. Oh. Second year in the league. Kobe Bryant didn't start for the Lakers. Started the All-Star game. Cool. Oh, there's a mic drop for you. Yeah, you both should have known that.
I mean, I should have known you were gonna jam a Kobe Bryant question. I figured. So.
Oh yeah. You should have known me going with the Kobe Bryant fact.
So let me ask you this, because the players don't want to play in this game. They've come out and they've said, "Listen, this is all about money. It's a money grab. You guys are putting money over health of the players. Like we were told going into the season, there wasn't going to be an All-Star game, and." We just feel like you're putting money ahead of the players. And I mean, LeBron said he's going to play either way. He's like, but I'm not going to be there in spirit or something. I'm like, well, just don't go. I mean, nobody's forcing you to go.
That's the big thing. If you don't want to play, then don't go. They'll just I don't know. I'm assuming it's like the Pro Bowl and the next guy up will come. And then eventually you'll get some guys who will play. And I mean, at that point, maybe the NBA will give up. But I mean, I think the players need to realize they hold all the power. If they don't want to play, don't play. Like shit, don't show up.
What do you think, Nick?
I think he froze right there.
Oh, so Nick's frozen? So
yeah, I'm going to guess. He hadn't moved in a long time. He hadn't blinked in a long time. So I'm going to guess that's not it. But, I mean, in this, like you said, like if they don't want to play, then they shouldn't go. And, he's back.
I'm back. I didn't like my LeBron take.
No.
Yeah, so we were just saying don't play. If you don't want to play, don't play.
Yeah, it's like if the players don't want to play, then don't play.
Yeah, ask Ian Desmond, right?
Yeah, I'm all about not playing if you don't want to play.
If you don't want to play, don't. If you don't want to play, if you don't want to play, don't play. But this is again, it's about the fans. So you want to complain about money, but guess what drives the revenue, folks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious how the fans would feel if the players did. That's the thing. I think the players are in a tough spot because I agree with the players that ownership put this together as a straight money grab, didn't even consider the players at all, especially if they told them before the season, hey, guys, we're not going to have an All-Star game, and now that we are. I'm kind of on the player side there, but I also feel like you can vilify these players because if they don't show up, then the owners are kind of like, hey, look, LeBron didn't show up, whoever, AD didn't show up.
I mean, again, it's like Nick said, it's a give and take here. It's a money grab for the owners, but you got to understand also as a player how much money they're losing out, by not having fans and things like that. So if this is a way to supplement that loss, which then in turn puts money back into the cap and things like that, like you got to think like that. Like they can't just think of, oh, they're only doing this to put money in their own pockets. Well, yeah, it's partly that, but they pay your salary. You know what I mean? Like, put money in their pockets is money in your pockets. Like let's be real here. Like I understand, but at the same time, you at a certain point, you do got to realize that it is a business. Even they have to try to make money, and losing out on fans the entire season. That this is a revenue stream that I don't think they can avoid to miss on.
Yeah. We align on this, Sully, 100%. I mean, it's like the players in one hand. I mean, the NBA players are such divas, right? And this is coming from guys who love soccer. I mean, the NBA players are absolute divas with this whole wanting their cake and eating it too. It's like, oh well, it's all about money for the league and blah blah blah. Well, it's really not. It's about money for you guys too. This is exposure for you. This is marketing for you. I mean, it's as much for you as it is the league.
Yeah, I feel like LeBron James could come out and say, I could play in 0 All-Star games in my career and I'd still have a $500 million Nike deal.
Well, yeah,
he won't do a dunk. But he won't do a dunk contest either.
Yeah.
He's a coward. Won't do the dunk contest. Afraid to lose. He's a coward.
That one I actually agree with. That take I actually agree with. I do think he's afraid to lose the dunk contest at this point, and that's what it's like fighting a girl. Nothing good comes out. Nothing good comes out of it. Like you either win the dunk contest and everybody says, "Well, he was supposed to win," blah blah blah, or you lose and you get made fun of because you lost to a girl. So that no good can come of him doing it. But I still think he is kind of a coward for not doing it.
I think LeBron James' entire career is everything is going to come back and bite him no matter what he chooses. So, I mean, at that point,
if he'd have done the dunk contest, his second, third year and done it for a while, nobody would say anything. Right. But, he never, come on, man. Do it. Even Jordan did it. Do it.
It's too late. It's too late. Kobe
and
Jordan
now it's too late, I think.
Kobe and Jordan won it.
That's what I mean. And now it's too late. Now it's the point where, like I said, there's no upside to it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Now it is time for the football segment of the show.
American football, right?
American football for right now. Something that happened about a week ago. We didn't ever really touch on it in the show because we were doing something a little bit different with the talking about certain things. But Carson Wentz gets traded. And I was stunned. I know you were too, Sully. A third and a second. We thought he was going to get 2 firsts for this guy, right?
I mean, just because of the Stafford market, I thought he would demand at least a first. Now, the second is a conditional that becomes a first, according to, I think, playing time. And it may be conditioned on if they make the playoffs, which I think we all think the Colts are going to make the playoffs. They're a pretty well-sound built football team. As long as Carson Wentz doesn't implode, I think they should make the playoffs. It's probably going to turn out to be a first, but regardless, I think it was pretty cheap, and the Colts kind of got a steal here. I understand Carson Wentz is on the downswing, and his stock has kind of never been lower, but at the same time, I mean, the guy was a MVP candidate before he got injured and has the ability to play great football. I think in this Colts scenario, it's kind of the perfect situation. He's got a line that can protect him, and if they can get some weapons that he can throw to, I think he has a chance to resurrect his career here.
Yeah, I think you guys both have a low bar on quarterbacks. That's why you think Tom Brady's the greatest. So I'm not shocked that you guys. I'm not shocked that that's why that you both were surprised that Carson Wentz fetched such a low haul, but. Carson Wentz is not Matthew Stafford. The Rams, in my mind right now, are the Super Bowl favorite because they have Matt Stafford and that defense. And I would say that Carson Wentz is nowhere near Matt Stafford as far as career-wise. Maybe potential, but what does that mean, right? So I think the Colts probably paid. It's a terrible deal for Philadelphia, right? Because they invested a lot to get Wentz. They invested a ton to get one, so it's a terrible deal. I feel awful. I don't really feel bad for Philadelphia, but I can see why they'd be upset. If Wentz can't succeed on this Indy team, I don't think he's going to succeed anywhere. That's my take.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a fair take. I mean, But I think he will succeed because, to Sully's point, you're going to a team that has arguably the best offensive line in football. You've got Naheem Hines and you've got Jonathan Taylor at running back. You've got
a good defense.
Top
great defense last year.
Great defense. He's got everything in place. Plus, he got Frank Reich, right? So, and I think people look at Carson Wentz and they see the season he had last year, and I get it. But you have to remember that before last year, he was completing 67% of his passes and had a 48-14 touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, he's a legit quarterback, but you can't throw from your back. And we saw him take a pounding this year. So I think really this is going to resurrect his career. I think he's an upgrade over Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, he may be. I mean, again, it's a lot to do with potential. And you say, what's potential worth? And potential's worth a ton, in my opinion, especially when the kids.
A second and third round pick, at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's only 25, I think, too, 26. Right. So he's got a lot of football left in him, presumably, if he could play well. But I mean, that's why I would at least think he would generate a first. Just because of his potential plus age, to me, equals a first, in my opinion. I agree he's not Matthew Stafford, but so I don't think he'd get 3 first-rounders, but a first and a third makes sense, and I guess the conditional second is essentially a first and a third. But, I mean, again, I think Indianapolis is the favorite in that division, I think, clearly, in my opinion.
Wait. You think Indy – who do they have to compete? Because I was going to ask you guys both that question.
Tennessee,
Titans and Browns,
Tennessee is really the only other division they have.
What is a successful season for Carson Wentz in Indianapolis?
First season was just the playoffs, in my opinion.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
In first season, if you can just make it to the playoffs, essentially repeat what they did with Phillip Rivers and show that, okay, this is where we can roll with it, I think that's a success at that point. Because then it's okay, we can build on this. Now maybe we get him a star wide receiver, a true stud pass rusher, and then, then we're a Super Bowl contending team.
Yeah, so I think we'd all agree on that then.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of if Carson Wentz can come back to 18 football, I think it was.
So 18 and 19. I mean, 19 was a decent year for him too.
Yeah, well, 18 was the year before he got hurt, where he was, I think, the MVP at that time.
Yeah,
and then he got hurt. Yeah, and then the last 4 games, obviously, you're not going to win it at that point. But he was the betting favorite at the time he got hurt. So, if he can return to that form, I mean, obviously, they've got every chance to win the Super Bowl. And that was with Frank Reich. So.
I know that one of the stories that came out, and it's gotten a lot of traction with some of our posts on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Follow us on social media, people. We'll tell you how at the end. Is that he had reached out to Michael Pittman. He said, "Hey, how attached are you to number 11?" And I guess Pittman said, "I'm extremely attached. Number 11 cannot be had. There is no price tag for it. Basically, you can't have it." And I think Wentz said something to him, was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll think about changing my number anyways." My take on that was this. Wentz has had number 11 since he was in college. Michael Pittman didn't even have number 11 in his first NFL season until it started. He was number 86, and he switched to 11 because all the receivers in Indianapolis have a 10 to 19 number, and all the tight ends have the 80s numbers. And so he was like, "Oh, I'm going to switch from 86 to 11. It doesn't mean anything to him, So I don't understand. Why not just give it up to a guy who's been wearing number 11 for a decade?
Why not? I mean, why do it? I love that Pittman deboed him. He said, that's my bike, punk. I love it. I love it. I think Michael Pittman should keep it. Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz, right? Like, that's it. And so much for your guys' argument on QB being the most influential person on the field. He can't even get his number from his receiver.
We'll see if he get balls thrown to him, though.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. We'll see how that works.
We'll see how he is when he doesn't get the ball thrown to him. And that's why I don't like this move is you've got a player coming in, just show some good faith. Say, sure, it's up for sale. Like, even if it's not, like, don't make it this big media thing, because now it looks like you're disrespecting your quarterback. Now you guys don't. Now you have to fix the relationship before the relationship has even happened. and it's just a sour note to start, I think, in my opinion. And when you've got a new guy coming in, especially your quarterback, who, I get it. He's a new guy. Who is he to you? And not only that, what's he done to prove anything to you? But still, bend a little. Yeah, here's 11. Then create a relationship and then do something that way. Even if you don't give him 11 and then just, I don't like the way that it played out. And personally, if I was the receiver, that's the guy who makes sure I eat. So I don't know. I wouldn't smack his hand.
He's Wentz's best target.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a huge Michael Pittman fan. Wayno told you I was tooting his horn for a long time. I love his abilities. I think he had the best hands coming into the draft, and was an NFL ready guy. But at the same time, he doesn't catch the ball if Carson Wentz doesn't throw it to him.
Yeah.
So,
and I've had the argument that because people were saying, "Oh, you're saying he should give it to him?" Like, I didn't say he should. I would if I was him, because I just feel like there's no attachment to the number. Obviously, it means something to Wentz. He would have reached out to you if it didn't mean something to him. That's why he's asking, So if it means something to him and it doesn't mean anything to you, then why wouldn't you give it up? And I've had a few people say that a lot of this stems back to Carson Wentz, I guess, has a reputation as not being a cool locker room guy. And so there's a lot of players who don't like him, even his own teammates in Philadelphia. It had nothing to do with his play that he got shipped out of there. It was that the locker room hated him. And so I'm curious if that reputation preceded him and Michael Pitten's just like, screw you, you're nobody. Why should I give you the number?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't have any, thing to say because I don't know anything about that. I've never heard that he was a bad locker room guy or anything like that. I know he didn't get along with the team in general. I didn't know it was with specific guys in the locker room. But that's very possible it could have preceded him. At the same time, we don't know. It means nothing to Michael Pittman. What if it was the birthday of his daughter or son? I don't even know if he has a kid or, or something like that. We don't know. So we're just judging because he didn't have that number. He wore 6 in college. His dad wore 32. So, I'm not, I don't know where he's getting 11, but if 11 means something to him in some way, fight for it. But don't do it publicly. We're like, you ain't getting my number. I don't know. I feel it disrespected his quarterback, and, your quarterback's kind of, it's the hand that feeds you. So.
I think speaking of quarterbacks, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys at an impasse. This is, hey, guys, it's not a repeat of last year's episode. No, the Cowboys and the Dak Prescott still have not reached an agreement. Probably going to be franchised again. Probably going to be traded. Maybe not. Who knows? I had this argument with you guys before we got on the air, which is this even news at this point?
Oh, it's absolutely news because it's the Dallas Cowboys, and let's face it, the league wants you to think Dak Prescott's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't think Cowboys fans feel like that in general, but I think the league wants Dak Prescott to be that guy or one of those top guys. Dallas is considerably better when they have Dak Prescott playing. But here's the thing, the money that Dak wants and the money that's being floated out there, I don't know that you can give it to a guy like Dak Prescott. I think that's kind of a trap. I think at the end of the day, Jerry Jones is going to do it. But I also feel like they better get out from under that Ezekiel Elliott contract if they're going to be giving Dak that kind of money.
See, I don't know how much, again, like you said, it's essentially they're at the same point they were last offseason. I think the Cowboys are dug in. Now, Dak could have made his money if he continued to perform the way he performed during the season.
But that wasn't his fault. That wasn't his fault. No, of course
not. But an injury is an injury. I don't care if it's your fault or not.
So he has less leverage. He has less leverage.
I agree. He has less leverage at this point. So I think he's going to get the same money, or I think Dallas is going to say, "Hey, look, we're still at the 36 number or 37, wherever they're at." And I think Dak's at like 40, 42. I think is the number I heard. And I don't think that I really don't think Dallas is going to move on that. They'll franchise him and keep him under the franchise again if they have to, or franchise him and move him. And I think they know they hold all the leverage at that point, and Dak coming off the injury, even after the great start to the season, I think doesn't have any leverage. Like, what's he going to do? Like, I mean, he still has to prove he can now play after the injury. So,
right.
I mean, you can't just give a guy that came off the season-ending injury like that $42 million.
All right, but the Dak Prescott story is big to me for one reason and one reason alone. If they franchise him, which we all agree that they're probably going to do that, next year's free agent QB class is Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Dak Prescott.
But I think Aaron Rodgers could potentially move this offseason in a trade. I think Russell Wilson is lobbying to be moved in a trade. And I think those guys will sign extensions if they do get traded. So I don't know if those guys actually hit the free agent market.
Right. But I'm just saying,
still, I mean,
right now,
at
this
massive.
point in time, that's massive.
Huge.
And for me, I guess the hang up with Dak last year, if my understanding is correct, is that Dallas offered him $35 million times 5 years. And he was willing to take the $35 million, but he only wanted 4 years so that he could become a free agent quicker. And I think Dallas they wanted to give him the 5th year, or there was no deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was something like that. I don't remember exactly, though. He should have taken the money then. He should have taken whatever they were giving him then.
But, I mean, again, I'm always for a player betting on himself. And Dak, I mean, if you look at his first 4 games, he was leading the league in everything at that point.
He was.
So, I mean, he made the right bet to start. It just didn't work out that way. And who knows? I agree with Nick in the sense that I don't think Dak is like an elite quarterback. I do think he can win a Super Bowl with that Dallas roster, though. Maybe not right now. I think they need a little help on defense. But that offense with what they got going on, again, if they can get out of that Zeke contract, I mean, I don't hate them staying in Dallas for $35-36 million a year. I don't like him in Dallas. I don't like Dak. I don't like nobody paying Dak $42 million. But, you know, at 35-36, I think that's a smooth, comfortable number. I'd be happy with that if I was Dallas.
The college football news, kind of. We ran into a situation, and we've all seen the video now. Barstool Sports released this video of Oklahoma wide receiver, I have his name here, Spencer Jones, and getting into it with a guy named Braden Brown at this bar. And by all accounts, it looks like Jones had about 4 inches and probably 40 pounds on the kid and just got absolutely pounded. Had to have surgery, like a 4-hour surgery to replace some orbital socket or something. Almost lost his eye. And my take, I thought it was hilarious because I looked at it as a bigger guy thinking he could push around a little guy, not knowing that, you know, the little guy mentioned that, you know, he's been cage fighting and MMA training since he was 12. And you could see it. Like, he knew how to take him down. He knew how to put him in the locks. He knew how to get on from behind him and start pounding from behind. That sounds bad, but I think that he bit off more than he can chew. And my philosophy has always been this: don't start a fight with anybody. I know his lawyer's breaking something up. That's his lawyer talking. Yeah,
I mean, but the dude's nose was bleeding. That dude that hit Spencer Jones, his nose was bleeding like before that altercation took place. And to your point about like the technique about taking him down and all that sort of stuff, like, yeah, that was all right. To me, what was most impressive was, I mean, just the technique for the punches that he was throwing. That's close quarters. And if to an MMA, to somebody who's trained in mixed martial arts, you know, in that situation, you have an advantage on a bigger person. Because if that guy Spencer starts swinging his arms, he's in close quarters, trying to fight in a phone booth. He's not going to land anything substantial. So this guy's throwing those short, quick punches right to the face, and that's what dropped him initially. I think that's what did the bulk of the damage, quite honestly, because he hit him with probably 3 or 4 good shots to the face, clean shots. But why was that guy's nose bloody? Why was his nose bloody leading up to that altercation? It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't, and that's the one I wish I knew, like, everything, because, and also the guy filming was with neither party.
Right.
And he was just randomly filming. So obviously something happened before that main altercation, and I'd love to know what. But I mean, you could see he's turned talking to his buddy, and I wish you could hear what they're saying, because you know what they're saying, because those two have trained. They're saying, "Man, should we beat the fuck out of these guys?" Right?
Yeah.
You know, get in the edit and bleep me out. Like, you know, should we beat these guys up right now? And you're right. The first punch he actually throws open-handed, and he smacks him, and then he throws a clean, smooth right. The other guy is the one I thought had his eye broken.
Right, same.
The other guy gets taken down and just pummeled from when he's behind it. I mean, just ruthless. So that's what makes me think, like you said, that first right, I think, did most of the damage and probably is the one that hurt his eye. But again, I mean, it just comes to show you neither of those kids, by the way, were professional fighters, fought in a cage, like Wayne had mentioned. Both have wrestled their entire life and train at jiu-jitsu gyms, but neither and MMA style gyms, but neither have fought professionally or anything like that. I don't think it should be spread around that a bunch of pro MMA guys beat up this kid.
Right.
It's just two kids that honestly know how to fight. And sometimes when you're 6'2", 205 pounds and you're a college athlete, you think you're invincible when really you're not.
Hey, Spencer Jones was also placeholder of the year last year in NCAA football.
Was he really?
I'm just throwing that out there. He was placeholder of the year last year. I didn't even know that was a thing.
How?
I don't know, but he's really good at holding down kicks.
That's amazing.
I don't know.
That's an actual award. I feel like I'm a shoo-in to win that award if I play.
Yeah, same. That's what I thought. I was like Sully's a shoo-in.
Dude, I would 100%. I'd be all over that.
I know.
I thought what a great advertisement for these kids, because I think they came out afterwards and said if anybody wants any MMA training or self-defense training, hit us up or whatever. I thought, wow, you got this great video. It looks like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. That's good for them.
To be fair, it's easy to know what you're doing when people don't know. And they look like they're drunk in a bar, too. We've all been there. I mean, Wayne hasn't. I don't know if Nick, you've been in a fight, but I've been there. I've been drunk and not at my peak fighting skills and paid for it. So, it happens.
And I'm not going to lie. I've actually started a few fights. I say don't start fights. I've started a few fights, but I've never thrown a punch because I've always been with somebody who threw the punches for me. But I've started quite a few. This thing has started quite a few fights. I was going to say, your mouth
seems like it could start quite a few fights. Man.
Yeah.
I got a feeling if we ever hang out and it's like the one time a year you're drinking, because I know you don't drink a lot, that I'm going to end up getting into a fist fight for you.
Okay. That's usually how it goes down, is like, because I'm such a cool guy, I feel like, and everyone's always like looking out to defend me. Like they're like, oh, we're not going to let this guy hit Wayne.
That's awesome.
So Notre Dame said that they're not going to be in the EA Sports college football game coming out whenever it comes out, 22, 23. There's plenty of time to make that decision, but they're coming out now. And I think what a brilliant move on two fronts. One, they're saying we want to wait until this ruling comes down on whether or not players can be paid, because we want to make sure that we pay our players if they're going to be in this game. So great marketing for your recruiting team, but also it's great leverage because Notre Dame might be the most popular college in all of college football, especially if you're playing video games. Like, how can you have a college football video game without Notre Dame in it? So for them to say we're not going to be in it, to me, it's kind of also like a negotiating tactic.
I'm sick of everything Notre Dame. Sully, I'll let you take over most of this segment here, but I'm sick of everything Notre Dame. I'm sick of them being in the playoff. I'm sick of them just being around and everyone telling me how good they are, and then they get smoked by some SEC team every year. It's like, I don't care what Notre Dame does. If anything, just like, cool, stay out of the game. I'm never going to play with you anyway. I mean, go but I don't care. Notre Dame, I've had enough of Notre Dame.
See, I don't know. I feel like Notre Dame, I get that they're so popular, but with who? I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody that personally that likes Notre Dame. Like within my circle of friends and kids and guys I know, nobody. Extended with like, whatever, like within reach, nobody I know is where are all these Notre Dame fans? Like, where? Right. I get that they have their own TV deal and everybody watches them because they're on a cable network. But other than that, where are all these Notre Dame fans? I don't know where they are. I don't see them. I get that they're watched, but that's because there's nothing else. Like you're forced to watch them, essentially. They're on a cable network regular channel. Everybody's just going to turn on channel 12 and there's Notre Dame, or 10. I don't know which one it is. CBS, I think. But nonetheless, I don't really think they have a fan base that would be dependent on them in NCAA. Like, no 12-year-old is a Notre Dame fan.
I don't know. I guess 12-year-olds of alumni. But all right, so wanted to end the show here with a take. Again, Nick, I'll let you have the floor I am almost out of the loop. We'll see what Sully has to take on it. But you said you have a hot take, a blazing hot take, which I wouldn't know the difference, on Liverpool football, a.k.a. soccer.
I've got one. Yeah. They suck.
Yeah, they do. So I'm going to give Sully. I'm going to do Sully a favor with this segment because I'm basically better at trolling my own fellow Liverpool supporters than like any other team supporters that I've ever come across. So Liverpool won the league last year, first time in 30 years, by 20 points, 19 points to be exact. They won the league last year by a landslide. My thing was they weren't that good. If you look at understat, if you look at their expected goals average, if you look at their possession retention, if you look at their ball possession rates, they really outperformed themselves by 20 plus points in the Premier League table, according from understat, which means that they were exceptionally, historically, statistically lucky. I think the team peaked under Jurgen Klopp 2 years ago when they made the Champions League final. They won the Champions League final, and they finished second to Manchester City. This year, the wheels are coming off, and no one wants to point blame. They all want to bring up injuries. They want to bring up all these things. You know, Virgil van Dijk's best defender. He went down early on in the season, all this sort of stuff that came up. But at the end of the day, Liverpool's problem is they don't score goals, and they haven't been scoring goals consistently for 2 years, and that comes down to Jurgen Klopp, who's the messiah at Liverpool now, and it drives me nuts because Jurgen Klopp prevented the board from buying to improve the squad. And Sully knows what a good, sustainable manager looks like because Sir Alex Ferguson, he was loyal to his players, but he was ruthless. And Klopp isn't ruthless enough, and that's what we're seeing with this Liverpool team. They lost 4 straight home games after going what did they have, Sully, like a 68 home unbeaten run or something absurd? It's the second greatest all time. I mean, it's just absolutely pathetic. And I watched them win, my beloved club. I watched them win the first league title basically in my lifetime, 33 years old. They won it for the first time in 30 years. I watched them win this league title in a COVID year with no fans, had plans and tickets to go, couldn't celebrate with the team. And then they come out this season after the initial championship campaign and they absolutely flop. It's embarrassing. They just lost to their biggest rival last weekend, Everton. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's an absolute disaster at the club, in my opinion, and no one's talking about it.
Now, I know Wayne can't speak too much on it, so I'll go ahead and ride out on it. I mean, it's tough to disagree. You know, Liverpool was getting a lot of hype, you know, last year, even being compared to that Invincibles team, the Arsenal Invincibles team, because of the run they went on. And you know, I kind of hinted at what you were saying is, man, this team's kind of very lucky in the way they're scoring goals. And, you know, it's tough to kind of like explain that, but obviously the understats did a good job of that at the end of the season. And to your point with Jurgen Klopp blocking buys, that's just something you can't do in today's game. You have to buy pretty much every season. You've got to come out and unless your top 3 are set in stone, but even then you should buy a 4th or a 5th guy at that point because somebody's going to go down. You speak to the point that Everton, you just lost to your biggest rival. I think Everton dropped the most money in the league this offseason. If not the second, they dropped a ton of money, bringing in all kinds of people trying to improve that club, and they've shown that it's possible to do so. Obviously, losing Virgil van Dijk is going to hurt, but when you're a team like Liverpool and like, you know, United was and is coming back to be and things like that, is you have to understand you have to buy these guys to have them on staple because these things are going to happen. Soccer is a grueling sport. I mean, I'm telling you, where you're playing 5 games, you know, in a stretch of 10 days sometimes and things like that with the Champions League and the international breaks and just all the tournaments and things that go on. So you've got to prepare for this kind of stuff. And I think Jurgen Klopp thinks I can manage that when essentially you can't really. You need the talent, and it's not just all on the management ability.
Yeah, and Liverpool supporters are always quick. This is the last point I'll make, Wayne, because now I'm on a tirade. So Liverpool supporters are quick to talk about Manchester City and all their spending, and that's how they got to where they are and how bad they were last year. Manchester City went and grabbed 3 guys last season. They grabbed João Cancelo, they grabbed Rodri, and they grabbed Ferran Torres. Right? They grabbed all those guys last season. They didn't perform much. They grabbed Riyad Mahrez 2 years ago. Didn't perform too much. And now this year, they're missing maybe the best player in England. If it's not your boy Bruno, it's Kevin De Bruyne, right? They're missing their best player, and they have not skipped a beat because they bought proactively. Liverpool didn't do that because Klopp wanted to run with a thin squad, and this is what you get. It's an absolute disaster. It's embarrassing to the supporters.
It's tough to disagree. And again, I think it comes to the point where Klopp and again, it's tough to knock him because I think the guy's uber talented, and honestly, it's hard to argue that he's probably not the best manager in football right now. But at a certain point, that can be detrimental because now I think he thinks he's the best manager,
right?
And he doesn't need to buy this $80 million star, when in fact it's, you do. It doesn't hurt. Everybody needs talent. It doesn't hurt to have a Bruno or a Kevin De Bruyne or these guys just on staple, just coming in. And then it makes your job even easier. Then you can scheme it even more. So I think that's where the issue lies. And hopefully this year, Klopp, not hopefully, because obviously I want United to succeed forever. But, obviously, you would hope as a Liverpool supporter that Klopp puts that block down and allows the club to open their wallet and spend a lot more this offseason.
And Wayne, because you're a big stats guy, so I'm going to leave you with this. Jurgen Klopp had 2 jobs as a manager before he got to Liverpool. The first one was at his club that he played for, which was Mainz. After 7 seasons, he fizzled out, right? Like, team started to go backwards. After that, he was at Dortmund. Season 7, they were in the relegation battle, which means they were about to be dropped from the highest league in Germany. He fizzled out. He is now at season 6 with Liverpool.
Ooh. It's actually pretty well. And what he doesn't mention, though, is Borussia Dortmund was, fighting for, winning the title, and actually I think may have under him and
they
things
did.
So, they were actually a great team, and then they plummeted. So, yeah.
Well, if you've made it to this point in the show, we do want to thank you. And
sign off 5 minutes ago when the soccer rant started.
Yeah, well, sorry.
So.
If you're listening, please check us out on YouTube. We have a video. If you're watching on YouTube, you can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or Amazon Music. You can download, stream the show when you're going for your walk, going for your drive to work, whatever it is.
When you're pumping the iron.
Yeah, pumping the iron. Just plug in the headphones and you listen, or earbuds, whatever, and listen to it. Follow us on social media.
You could be fighting place kick
holders
in the bathroom.
Place kick holders in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Wayne, Kenny's going to get us out of here before I go on another Liverpool rant.
Okay, well, before Kenny, follow us on social media.
Like and subscribe on YouTube, guys.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. At Infinity Sports Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us and like us there. Instagram at Infinity Sports Podcast and at Sports Infinity 5. Reach out. We're going to kind of doing TikTok, but just commercial videos for the show to try to get some more people to watch. Tell your friends about it. Maybe we'll get them to watch as well. And Kenny, what's going on? Where are we at with the show? Whoops. Let's try this again.
Whoops.
Kenny, where are we at with the show?
Second time.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen.